Press in this session and
Brilliant.
welcome Donna.
Thank you, Pauline. Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome. And as Pauline says, congratulations on being a finalist. I've judged this award for years, and I just think this gets harder and harder every single year to become a finalist. So, Pauline, I just wanted to say, when I was on the attendees list before I moved over to co-host, I couldn't write in the chat. So I don't know if you want to check that people can, or if we've got a Q&A box, whether
Okay,
we can put questions in there.
I'll have a
Just checking. Silence is golden and all that, but if anyone can't write in the chat, then we need to find out a way for you to be able to do that. So today I'm going to take you through the next stage of the process, which is actually awards presentations directly to the judges. And what's really exciting is we've got lots of new companies this year, lots of new faces. So you might not have been through this process before. So could be really, really valuable for you. So take advantage of it. This is your opportunity to ask questions. Oh, good, it's working now. Chat's working. Hello, everyone. Ask questions and use this opportunity to get my experience as a judge, get information from Pauline, and we'll help you as much as we possibly can, okay? So you're very welcome, and no question is silly. Like, I've literally heard every question you can imagine in the world around awards. So if you're thinking it, the chances are someone else is thinking it as well. So it will probably help everyone if you do ask the question, okay? So please don't worry about what you're asking. Ask whatever you like about your awards presentation, okay? So just to get started in a formal introduction, in case we haven't met before, my name's Donna O'Toole. I'm the founder of an awards agency called August Recognition, named as such because August, in the second sense of the word, means respected and admired, and that's what we help our clients to become by winning awards. I've been in this awards industry for well over a decade, and I think probably working with the Learning Awards for well over a decade too. There's not a lot I haven't seen in awards programs. We have lots of different partners, as you can see here. We're also part of a larger group called Dent Global, which is an entrepreneurial accelerator that helps entrepreneurial businesses to scale up, stand out and make a dent in the world. And we also work with a lot of large organizations and corporates as well. So it really doesn't matter what sector you're in or what size of business you're in, you have an equal chance of winning. So don't make any assumptions when you look in that finalist list and think, oh my goodness, we're up against them. How are we ever going to win? You often be surprised, and we're often surprised. So don't make any assumptions. Do all the learning, and you all have an equal chance of winning. We have an outstanding win rate, which we're really, really proud of. And that's because we take the time to understand what these kind of awards need to see and what kind of proof you need. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So how to make an award-winning presentation. So we're going to go through a few steps. So how to plan your presentation. And this is going to be high level. I can't prescribe to you what you need to do in this webinar because you're all different and you all come from different backgrounds with different projects that have had different impacts. But I'll give you a general overview of what we'd be expecting. So how to choose your presentation tools for this event, how to select your team, really important how you do this, how to create winning content, and how to present with confidence, okay? So if you pop any questions that you've got in the chat, then I will come to those at the end for you as well. So some key information, first of all, make sure you know when your presentation is. Some of them are not very long away. So between the 4th and the 19th of November, there will be presentations running every day. The format of the presentation is on Zoom, and the timing is you'll have around 15 minutes to present and then another 30 minutes for Q&A with the judges. You might not need all of that 30 minutes, but it gives us enough time and space to make sure that we really get all of the information that we need to judge you equally, fairly, and encourage you to get all of that great information over to us as well. Your panel of judges on Zoom will normally be between sort of 2 to 5 judges, depending on the category and the day, and they will have read your entries as well. So they're in a good position to go to that next level with you. Okay, the date that you're presenting depends on the category you're in, so make sure you know the date and the time. If you're not sure about that, drop Pauline a message and she can signpost you to where that information will be. Okay. So let's start with planning your presentation. So I thought I'd share this little screenshot of one of the awards presentations we did. This was a couple of years ago, and this was on Zoom. And it's just to show you really that anything goes, because this was a VR, this was an innovation category, and this is a VR initiative. And so we were encouraged to wear VR headsets, and we actually did the judging within that VR place, which was really exciting and really different and very innovative. That's me down there. And really great. So if you've got something a bit different, don't be afraid to share it, and don't be afraid to let the judges know. If it's something technological like this, then you'd need to get ahead of yourself and have that sent out to the judges. But for the vast majority, 99.9% of presentations, it will be you and your team or your customer or whoever that is, and I'll talk about team in a minute, showing up on Zoom, ready to tell us more about your story, and put your best foot forward to hopefully become the winner. So when you're thinking about your presentation tools, you might be thinking, well, what's going to be the best way for me to get this across? Now, there's lots of different mediums that you can use. There's video, there's Prezi. Prezi's gone out of fashion, I feel like, a little bit. It used to come up quite a bit, but not so much now. PowerPoint as well. My personal preference is PowerPoint or Google Slides, something like that, where you can go through in a linear fashion. I tend to find, and I think most judges would agree, that on the day it can be quite nerve-wracking. You know, this is not a sales pitch. This is not an internal presentation. This is a presentation to win a really prestigious award. So it can get your nerves going and the butterflies in the tummy. So use something you're really comfortable with using and something that will keep you on track. I think that's important. So it tends to be PowerPoint type presentations that are favored there. You can use video, so don't think that you can't. You absolutely can. But unless your video has been specifically selected or made for the presentation, I would suggest that you just use snippets if you're going to use any, in order to highlight a point that you're making, or perhaps bring a person's voice into the room that can't attend or something like that. So it might be that you've got quite a complicated concept and you've got a great 1-minute video that shows how that works. It might be that you want to show a demo of how a platform works. It might be that you've got some great customer or employee or leader feedback that you want to bring on video. So you can use it, but you're being timed. It's 15 minutes. That's not very long when you're trying to get across the whole story. So don't play us a 9-minute video and then just give yourself a few minutes left to speak, okay? Because chances are you probably miss out some of the criteria. So use video lightly to illustrate what you're talking about. Use some kind of deck that you feel comfortable presenting with that will keep you on track during your presentation. If you do use video, by the way, and you're not used to using Zoom with video, then you need to make sure you share your sound when you share your screen. There's a little box that you need to tick, so just bear that in mind. I'll talk to you about some tips for confidence in using these things shortly. I think it's also important to avoid death by PowerPoint. Now, we all have been through scenarios where we've had to sit in front of PowerPoint presentations that are boring us to death. And that's often because there's so much content that we don't know what to digest first, or the person who's presenting it is not able to signpost us through it very clearly. So I have recorded a podcast with Dominic Colenso. He's actually an actor who teaches presentation skills to organizations and to individuals. And we talked about awards presentations. So he was actually in Thunderbirds. So if you want to have a little listen to that podcast, there might be some tips in there for you on your presentation side as well. But I always find that actually, and you're doing this now, okay, you're listening whilst looking at the screen. I keep slides quite simple, but this is quite basic and instructional. You can go more detailed than this. But really what you want to make sure is that the judges can digest what's on the screen and it aligns with what you're saying. So sometimes people will present with loads and loads and loads of information on the screen, but actually what they're saying doesn't quite fit with it. And so it can be a little bit confusing of what we should listen to, what we should pay attention to, what we should be looking at on the screen. So just think a little bit about being on the receiving end of that presentation and how someone who's never seen you present before and doesn't necessarily know your project in depth is going to receive it. Also, little habits like doing this on the screen, people get nervous and whiz their cursor around and things like that, avoid things like that. But the great thing about Zoom that I love is that you can practice on Zoom to a friend, to a relative, to your colleague, to whoever, record it and play it back and watch it and actually see how you present and try and help you to level up if you can and really have clarity in your presentation and get within the time allowed as well. So do utilize the fact that you can do that because it's a great tip. So selecting your presentation team, these are just some of the great winners from last year. Some of you might be here today. Congratulations if this was one of you. What is really important is to think strategically, but also to think practically. So who is best placed to talk to the judges about your project or about your initiative and be able to answer any question that might come up for them? Now, it's quite difficult to predict judges' questions. Even I wouldn't necessarily be able to predict judges' questions, but I can tell you that the judges will generally ask you questions that will either seek to fill a gap of knowledge that they don't necessarily know or haven't understood from either your entry or presentation, seek to take you further and tell us a bit more and dig a bit deeper or get a greater understanding, or there may be an element of criteria that you haven't quite covered, so we might try and steer you in that direction to make sure that you do cover it. Or we may ask something a bit more personal or a bit more broad spectrum, like, what's been really challenging for you, or if you did it all again, how would you do it? That kind of thing. So you need to make sure that your team is ready for anything when it comes to answering questions. And do answer the questions. I've definitely been in presentations where people have avoided answering the question. Doesn't really help. So I think when selecting your team, I think it's really important to make sure that you, sorry, that was my family, one of my children, to make sure that you have thought through who is there and who will be able to answer the questions, okay? So that might be someone who led the project, plus someone from your senior leadership team, or it could be actually you're a provider and your customer and you could come together in a partnership to do that. So we could hear both perspectives. Really, every one of you here will have an individual situation and you will know who's best placed to do that. Now, if you've never presented before in an awards presentation, please don't let this put you off, and please don't think, oh, well, I'm not an experienced presenter, so it's best not to be me. If you've been involved with that project or you've led that project, you're probably the best person to get involved. And we are not here as judges to be critical about the way that you present or anything like that. We are here to support you and encourage you and make sure that you have a really positive experience sharing your story with us. And I can tell you that from judging the categories I've judged, every single entrant in there was strong in some way. It's actually really, really hard to get onto the shortlist. So for you guys to be here, you've done exceptionally well, and we want to hear more about that. So we're really happy to welcome any members of your team who are able to share that knowledge with us and really bring to life your presentation. This is your opportunity to go further than what was on the page and tell us what it meant to you, what difference it's making in your business, and really all the great impact that it's having, okay? So that's what these guys have done to stand out, some of these winners here. So please do have a think about your team and don't drop someone in it at the last minute. It does happen, or have a plan B at least for the team in case someone is sick. Make sure you've got someone else who knows what they're doing, because occasionally we do find that someone has been dropped in at the last minute and they really don't have a clue what is going on. And that's a real shame when you've got a great project that you could have been really strong on sharing. Okay. So thinking about winning content then, and again, each one of your projects is completely different from the other. So much diversity in this award with the different categories and the different projects. So there isn't necessarily one way of making this work. There's multiple different ways. But I always think that this philosophy from Aristotle is a nice way to think about it and a nice way to receive information from a judge's perspective. And that is to tell them what you're going to tell them. So that's really make an introduction to your project and where it's going to take them and why the success that you've brought, and then tell them all the details. So that's the juicy information, that's the action points, that's all the different things that you've done, and then to tell them what you told them. So really reiterate why this is making a difference and why you should be the winner this year. Okay. Each and every award entry has criteria that goes with it, and it's the same criteria for the actual presentation as it was for the award entry. So if you are up for doing the presentation and maybe you didn't write the award entry, you need to go and make sure you fully understand what was in that and you fully understand the criteria and the category. If you wrote the award entry, then you're best placed to really carry that forward into your presentation, or you might be bringing new people into your presenting team. So make sure everyone's really clear on what that criteria is. You may also have more than one presentation. There's quite a lot of people here who have been finalists in multiple categories. So if you are a finalist in multiple categories, just remember that every category that you go into, you need to focus your presentation on that category, okay? You can usually tell when it's quite broad spectrum and it's set to fit any category. And remember that other people in your category may only just be in that one category and they've entirely focused their presentation to that category. So to be in with a good chance of success, you need to do the same. Okay, so that's really important on your content. And then presenting with confidence. Now, this comes into two different elements. One is obviously your personal confidence, and I think that's more aligned with the podcast I was telling you about and more about practicing and really being clear with how you're using your technology, that you haven't got anything making you feel nervous on the day, like your mic's not working or you can't get on the Wi-Fi or all those things. So first of all, make sure that your setup is really working well. You're in a nice quiet room. No one like your children's going to ring you like mine, things like that. But then also, if you've got a really clear story and you know it really well, and you're really confident in that story, then that confidence is going to come across in your presentation. And these three key elements you can see on the screen here are, after over a decade of working in awards, I can tell you are the three elements you need to bring together to have any chance of winning. And that will bring you to the sweet spot here. So this is another philosophy from Aristotle based on something called modes of persuasion. And modes of persuasion is essentially about winning an argument. And if you think of you making an argument to win, then this is where you can go from. Also, if you need to have an argument with somebody, this is a really good format for what you're going to say. So first of all, it's thinking about the logical impact of what you've done. So who are you doing the project for? Why are you doing it? What's the commercial impact going to be, etc., etc. So all that kind of logical, quantitative stuff. Then you want to think of it from the values position. So what's more emotional about it? What human impact can there be? Even if you're working with technology, there's always a human on the other end somewhere. So there will be a human impact. What difference are you making in the world? Where's the gap that you're filling? And how do people feel better thanks to you and what you've done and how that's making a difference? And then it's evidencing both of those things. Now, this can be a real challenge in learning and development, and we all know that. And sometimes getting commercial value back from a project can take a long time. If you're a provider, you might not be given that by your client. It can be really difficult. So really try and think of all the different ways in which that you can evidence what you're saying, because without evidence, we can't, as judges, we don't feel that it's substantiated. So you wouldn't necessarily get the most points. So really think that through. That tends to be the piece where people slip up a little bit. And really a balance of quantitative and qualitative evidence can make a real difference there as well. So I think they're really important for building your confidence, because if you know you're going to a presentation and you're going to tick all the right boxes really, and you're going to make those judges feel something, then I think you can come out of that with real confidence. And just bringing you to the end now, and we'll answer your questions in a second, so do throw them into the chat box. I truly believe that in this saying, they may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And there is certainly awards presentations that I have been judging on every single year where I think I will never forget that presentation. It's really resonated and it really sticks there. So try and think about yourself and how your presentation might make someone else feel. And as I said earlier, practice it on your colleagues, practice it on your family and friends. Practice it on people who are not in your industry, because the judges are not necessarily from the same background as you, so they will be coming at it from a different perspective and viewpoint. So really think about how your presentation is going to make those judges feel. It's very often on the day we get to the end of the presentations and we're like, wow, everyone's got an argument to win here, and we've really got to work hard to narrow it down to who that winner is. So the judges almost have as hard a job as you have presenting, but we're really rooting for you guys to do well. And we love to see brilliant presentations, and we love to see the effort that's gone into those, and really you feeling confident and proud. And it can be a great team building exercise as well for you to come together and actually spend that time reflecting on what you've achieved over the last year or so. So it's really, really important for your team morale too. So that brings me to the end. Now, what I forgot to say at the beginning is that there's a little QR code box here on the corner of each slide. And if you've got a smartphone, if you go onto your camera, hover over the QR code, then that will take you to a free presentation checklist that you can download as well. So please do help yourself to that. And that is on all the different slides. So if you're watching this on a recording, I know a lot of people will be, pause your slide and you can download that there as well. Okay. Oh, there you go. It's a bigger version. Maybe that one's easier. And that will go through some of the tips that I've said today and more as well. If you are looking for support with your presentations and you need some feedback and an objective perspective, then we can support you with that. So get in touch with us on hello@augustawards.com. We're very delighted to help you. You can also download a copy of my book from our website for free as well. So if you visit augustawards.com, you'll be able to find that in our free resources. And that goes through lots of different awards and techniques and case studies and stories, and Pauline even features in here. With the Learning Awards as well. If you need to get in touch with Pauline or the Learning Awards, then you can do so with the email here, their website here, thelearningawards.co.uk, but this is your opportunity to ask questions. So I'll leave this QR code up in case any of you are trying to do that. And I think, Pauline, we can come to the questions now and see if we've got anything else to add.
Brilliant. Thank you, Donna. We have lots of questions in the chat. So I'm going to scroll back. I've managed to answer a couple. We had Janet was asking about the podcast details, which one of our other finalists on here has kindly shared in the chat. So that's great.
Thank you. I can never multitask and do that.
Jodie has asked, is it okay if your presentation team is just one person with perhaps some pre-recorded videos for testimonials from others included in the presentation itself?
Absolutely. Do not worry if it's just one of you. I'd say probably, I don't know, at least a third of the presentations I see are just one person. That's fine. Often it's a project that you've led or other people aren't available. That's absolutely fine. There's no like marks given for who turns up and who doesn't and that kind of thing. So it's just all about you getting it all across to the judges. So absolutely no problem whatsoever.
Thank you. And then Susie, that hopefully should answer your question that you asked about presenting yourself. And Samantha has asked, how prepared should I be on revenue analytics?
On revenue and analytics?
On revenue analytics.
Revenue analytics. Well, as I said, I can't predict what judges will ask you, and it's going to be more or less relevant to your project depending on what your project was. So for me, I would always over prepare. I would say I'd have the information there available. If you can build it into your presentation or have some notes available so that you can answer relevant questions to that. whatever that is. And sometimes, you know, quantitative measurements of success don't always come down to revenue. So sometimes it's about reducing attrition, sometimes it's about reducing costs or increasing productivity, or, you know, so many other different things, metrics that can come into it. So I'd say make sure that you're very prepared on the metrics that are most impactful for your project or your business or your initiative, but be prepared for revenue questions, because if the judges think they're relevant, they will ask them.
Brilliant, thank you. Louise has mentioned about, because we have up to 3 people can attend your session, but if only 2 attend on the day, then that's not a problem. We like to just know ahead of time who it's going to be, so we can inform the judges sort of who it is they're going to be seeing. But if that happens to change last minute, then it's not a problem.
Also, can I just add a little tip to that?
Yeah.
When you present, please put your name on your screen.
Yeah.
Because I've had a few like Snoopies and things like that with people pet names. Okay, cool. Whatever's on your screen.
Yeah, it's good. I know it's good for you to know who it is you're.
Yeah.
And then we've had another question here. Is it better to have native English speakers to present?
There is absolutely nothing. This is an international competition, and we welcome international entrants and finalists, and there will be a real mix. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. What's really important is that they're getting the right information over to the judges and they're able to answer the judges' questions. If for some reason it's somebody who might struggle a little bit on the English side of things, then by all means they could bring somebody with them to help interpret or something like that. But from my perspective, it's certainly not an issue so long as we can have a chat and a conversation about, you know, and ask those questions.
Absolutely, thank you. We have another question here. Everything about the project was shared in the submission. So can you tell me what should be the focus of the presentation? Is there something extra I should add?
Very often, it's kind of the same information that's coming across. This is your opportunity to bring it to life more, though. So in the entries, the written entry, you can submit a bit of supporting material. The judges will have read a lot of entries to get to the point of the shortlist. So they're not going to remember the details of what was in your entry specifically. They might, you know, remember vague bits, but they're not going to remember all of those details. So it's really important that you don't leave anything out, I would say. But if you can build on it, do, or if you can bring it to life in some way, do as well. So you're certainly not going to be score less or anything like that for bringing the same information. It's probably a great refresher for the judges, to be honest. I will have millions of award entries going through my brain, not just from this competition, but from others as well, because this is a big judging period for me. So never assume that just because the judge has read your entry, that's retained. They're all busy people coming from lots of different environments, and we'll really appreciate the refresher of all of those details as well.
Absolutely, thank you. And then Caitlin has asked, can you request that the judges consider a question prior to the presentation?
Consider a question. Sorry, what do you?
I assume that means I can get in touch with you and say, one of the finalists has asked you to think about this before the presentation date.
Well, I think that's a bit of a tricky one. In the element of fairness, everyone's given the same amount of time to present and to have conversations with the judges. And we've read your entry, so really anything that was relevant that we should have known before now should have been in your entry. I can't think of off the top of my head of a situation where that would be necessary. Can you think of one?
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, in the element of fairness, I think we have to give everyone, you know, the same allocated time. Yeah. Asking anything beforehand, yeah, I don't think it's.
And also there's multiple judges doing multiple things, and really, in all honesty, we're not looking at these presentations until we're there allocated on the day. So we don't allocate time before the presentations to think about things that applicants might have said. So I would just really make sure, really focus on bringing everything that you need in the presentation to that presentation. So it's a bit of a no-brainer for the judges to know everything, and then for them to be able to ask you questions about that.
Brilliant, thank you. There is some chat around sort of presentation times, etc. But I will, before we leave the this webinar today, I'll just go through sort of what's already been sent out, etc. So I'll just pass those for now. But Bethan has said, is there a judging criteria that carries more weight than others?
No, it's an overall criteria. So all of the elements of the whole category criteria come together to make the whole score. And I understand what you mean, because in some awards there will be higher weighting for certain parts of the criteria, but in this award that's all equal. So really it's putting together all of your story in a way that matches all of the presentations, so that we all of the criteria, so that we can see that you have met all of that. If you miss a bit of criteria, then we'll be looking out for that, and we'll try and encourage some of that out. So if, for example, let's say innovation was part of your criteria and you didn't mention innovation, then we would try and tease it out of you in our questions and say, is there anything more you can tell us about your innovation, to see if you've got that information.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Jackie has said that our team nominated an individual for an award who has been shortlisted, and we know they need to be part of the presentation team, but would you suggest that they need to be the main presenter?
Okay, that's an interesting one. So when it comes to individuals, it can be successful in multiple different ways. So sometimes it's just the individual on their own, and they're presenting what they've achieved in that year, and the judges will ask them directly the questions. Sometimes the team who the leader works with will be running the presentation, and the leader's there, but they might just be there to answer Q&A for the judges at the end, and you can explain that to the judges when you come into the presentation. Sometimes they'll share the presentation, and actually the leader will do some parts relevant to them, and the team will do parts that were relevant to them. So really you can work it how feels most comfortable to you, your leader, your team, and your project. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's more just about how you're best going to get all of that criteria covered and your points across to the judges.
Brilliant, thank you. Where are we? Lots of questions. Samantha said growth potential was mentioned in the criteria. So should we have a slide on future product/project plans?
Growth is potential. That's again entirely up to you. It will be more or less relevant to different presenters with different projects. So looking at the criteria for your category, if that's something for you, then yeah, absolutely talk to us about what the growth potential is. So yeah, go through that criteria, make sure that you're covering everything. I'm going to see if I can get the link for you guys for this. The link's not working. Yeah, so it's really up to you. Some people will have more information on that, some will have less. This is about you weighing up what's most important for the judges to know and what you've got available.
Brilliant. And there's a couple of questions around from Stephanie, Holly. Who will they know in advance who the judges are? And from our side, that isn't something, I mean, if you go on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people saying we're judging at the Learning Awards, and we don't hide it as such, but I think, Donna, your response will be don't worry too much about
I always think it's a bit dangerous to worry about who the judges are, because judges are not infallible. We will also get ill and things like that happen, or someone has to move categories because something happens on that day, or things like that. And if you've designed your whole presentation to sort of aim it at specific judges, then that can be disappointing for you. But also, not only that, there's a mixture of judges. And the way that the judges work together, when they're mixed together, they will come at things from different perspectives. So for me, I say, if your granny can understand your presentation, then the judges can understand your presentation. So really, it should be suitable for anybody in any industry to be able to judge. So I covered it from that angle, and don't worry too much about who the judges actually are.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. And then Sinead has just said, The slot we've been given is on a day when relevant team members are travelling internationally. We may need to have team members not involved in the project who are presenting. Do you think this is a bad idea?
I think you're just going to need to practice. And make sure they're well briefed, make sure they understand what was in the entry, make sure they understand about the project, make sure they understand about the future of the project. So really that's an internal initiative for you to make sure that everyone who is in the presentation is coming at it from a good place. Because as judges, we just have to score what we find on the day. We can't make any changes or allowances for who was or wasn't able to attend. Unfortunately, but I appreciate it's really difficult. What you could do though is you could do some video with them. If there's something in particular you think that they would want to say or talk about, or that it's important to get their voice in there. So yeah, I'd get the people who were involved to give you lots of information in one way or another that you either share directly with the judges or you learn from yourself so that you can answer any questions.
Brilliant, thank you. And that sort of leads into sort of the presentations. There've been a few questions on dates, times, etc. So all of the confirmation emails with the date and times of your presentation have gone out. So you should have had those. When you submitted your entry, you were at sort of the time zone that you were in. So I have taken into account that where you are based. If you tell me you're in Australia or the US, hopefully you won't be presenting at 3 o'clock in the morning your time. So I have taken that into account. Obviously there is things that come up and maybe people aren't going to be where they initially thought they were going to be. So but if you could just I've put my email in the chat. So if there is anything you're concerned about regarding the times or date, just drop me a message. But you have all had confirmations of the dates and times of when you're presenting by now.
Also, I think last year someone presented from an airport because they were traveling and they weren't expecting to be. So don't worry too much. If you're on the road, but you can get that, 45 minutes to talk to us, we'll talk to you wherever you are. We're not going to be precious about what your background is or anything like that. So long as we can hear you, you can hear us, and you're happy speaking about it and comfortable wherever you are, then don't let that make you miss out or something. But I don't envy Pauline's task of allocating everybody from all over the world, because it is really, really challenging. But the judges will do their best to accommodate whatever's going on for you at that time as well.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. Yeah, I don't think I've made anyone get up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Fingers crossed. I think you could be presenting at a reasonable time. But yeah, as I say, I've just put my email in the chat. So if there is anything, if you think I've missed an email, I'm not sure what time I'm presenting, just drop me a message and I'll get that resent out to you.
Pop mine in as well in case you need any support.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not long away for some, but it's super exciting. I know it can be quite daunting and it can feel a little bit intimidating if you haven't done it before, but I promise the judges will always be super welcoming. We're used to this. And we will make you feel comfortable, and we will do our absolute best to get the best out of you for your project as well.
Brilliant, thank you. I think then we have come to an end. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to Donna for your time, and thank you for all the questions. Myself and Donna's emails are in the chat, so if there is anything you think of, then please do drop us a note. And good luck.
Good luck. Looking forward to seeing some of you on the day. I won't give away which one I'm judging. But some of you will be there. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.